Minister, Rosslare Europort is one of Ireland's most important pieces of infrastructure, particularly in the context of Brexit. The British in the early 1900s constructed Rosslare Port as they identified its strategic location, in that it was the most accessible and closest in terms of distance to mainland Europe and the UK. Despite its importance strategically, successive governments have failed or neglected to make proper investment in this country's most strategic port. Politicians who have held senior political posts in various governments have flooded poorly located ports with millions of euros, all in the interest of political personal gain. Foynes, Cork and Dublin Port have all been beneficiaries of this strategy to the detriment of Rosslare. Wexford government politicians have for decades engaged in the PR stunt of advocating the case for the investment of Rosslare Europort, whilst privately within their own political circles in Dublin accepting no such investment would ever happen because of the red herring of the ownership issue. Since the advent of Brexit, traffic at the port has increased by in excess of 450%. We are all still at level 5 lockdown, which we hope will end soon, but there is some traffic congestion in Wexford, in particular Oilgate. And however, when we get to the summer months and the level 5 lockdown restrictions abate, from Rosslare to Oilgate will undoubtedly be more congested, inevitably causing delays. On Monday in the Shannon, a Fianna Fáil senator asked Fine Gael's junior minister Peter Burke for a timeline on the completion of the M11 motorway from Oilgate to Rosslare Europort. The junior minister indicated a timeline of 8 to 13 years in the availability of funding. This, given the consequences of Brexit, is completely unacceptable. We need less of the PR babble and more action. What is needed here, Minister, is for someone to take this combined scheme by the scruff of the neck and to complete the M11 stretch from Oilgate to Rosslare and upgrade the Europort's infrastructure to facilitate Ireland's trade of imports and exports. We've engaged professionals on 2 occasions now to decide the route, costing taxpayers double what it should have cost. Have the government no foresight? It took Brexit for them to realise Rosslare Europort was Ireland's most valuable and neglected piece of infrastructure, and yet not 1 shilling has been forthcoming. A 450% increase in traffic since January 1st. The whole industry knew this would materialise, with the exception, it seems, of those in your department and others who compiled the IMDO report. Count Corla, where is the government's leadership? Where is the foresight that will see Rosslare as the country's main offshore wind farm and construction port? We need leadership. We need decision-making, followed by the money, Minister.
Thank you. Thank you, Deputy.
Thank you very much indeed, Deputy Murphy. Can I start by agreeing with you that I think we need more balanced regional development. The National Planning Framework is a guideline for a lot of the work that I do as a Minister for Transport. I think it's critical we get more balanced regional development. If I recall rightly, I think it's something like 97% roll-on, roll-off traffic comes through Dublin Port, and that's an imbalance that we need to address. I had a very good meeting with Foynes Port yesterday, and they're looking at the potential development of container business from that port, which might rebalance things. And absolutely, I agree with you, Rosslare is going to have a critical role of strategic importance for our state, particularly because of Brexit, in terms of both the increasing travel directly to the continent, but also the ongoing use of the land bridge from Wexford across to the Welsh coast. So we need, and can I say first and foremost that the staff and management in Rosslare Harbour, I think, have done a remarkable job, because they've been able to see a huge increase in the number of sailings from the port, a huge increase in the volume of output, particularly in recent months because of Brexit or because of the changing circumstances, and they've managed that in a way that no one could have expected, because you're right, there hasn't been historically sufficient investment in Rosslare Port. That's something we now seek to change. That may also include, and there's various development prospects, the significant development of the port as a centre for the rollout of offshore wind industry, which offers huge potential for this country. But that also may apply for other ports. We're going to have to go through a process very quickly of assessing what type of investment where, but I believe Rosslare Port could provide a very ideal location for such development. There is also, we've a rail review being carried out at this present time, or being started by this government. I think that has to be included in looking at the future development of Rosslare, to look at the likes of the Wexford rail line, and indeed look at the now closed, disused connection from Wexford to Waterford, to see could that be a way of enhancing economic activity and social life in the South East. But also, what you say is true, we also need to improve road access to Rosslare Port, given its increasingly strategic importance to the state. It takes time to build roads. The route selection, the planning process, the procurement, and also the cost. The sections of motorway which we're delivering, or other dual carriage or other national road sections, do not come cheap. But can I confirm to you that it's my view it is one of the strategic areas where we do need to invest in. We do need to make sure that we have the best possible connectivity to the continent and to other markets, to the UK, and that Rosslare is going to have a central part in that. Included in that may well be looking at the ownership issues. In terms, you mentioned the history there. I think we may also need to look at that as one of the elements that we need to get right in the future management of Rosslare Port.
Thank you. Thank you, Minister. I hope that the ownership issue will be the last thing you look at, because it's the least relevant. When you say nobody could have expected the figures to grow exponentially from the 1st of January, as I previously said, everybody expected in the industry that the figures would grow like this. The only people who didn't disappear were the IMDO. But what I am glad to hear you say is that you are looking at it, but this decision needs to be imminent. There is a requirement for immediate funding in the small millions to get this process underway, to determine that Rosslare Europort will be the construction base for the new wind farm projects about to be undertaken. We don't have time in that regard. We have a small window in which to prepare for that, or lose the opportunity forever. And I don't accept that that can happen to Rosslare this time. You spoke about balanced regional development. There has been no balance up to now. Absolutely none, Minister. And it's time that the government saw the strategic importance of Rosslare Europort and put their money where their mouth was and invested in that port.
Thank you, Minister.
Because it's going to take a level of years to get us to a point of where we can offer the infrastructure of any port in this country. So I'd ask you to make it the most strategic. Thank you.
Minister to respond.
I remember visiting Rosslare Port, must have been 17 or 18 years ago, when the very first offshore wind farm was being built, and the blades and the turbines were deployed from Rosslare Harbour. So it seems to me it has a lot of characteristics that we will need in the significant investment we're going to have to make in the Irish Sea and Celtic Sea area. We expect an auction system, I would imagine, early next year. It's critical before we do that we get the Marine Planning Development Bill through this House, into this House and through this House, and that we set up the necessary systems. You're right, there is a very tight timeline on this. We have to act quickly as a government, and we will. We will make sure that the investments are there in place to facilitate the development of that, subject to proper environmental checks. So, but as I said, it may not be exclusively or necessarily Rosslare. We do have to look at the variety of different port options. Different ports will come with different options, and we will make the best choice for the economic and development of this country.
Moving on.